to focus on just two things. One is about fundraising, because I think many of you want to raise funds, and to tell you what are the sort of, what are VCs looking for, what are the trends. And the second thing which I'm going to talk about is why managing your cap table is important. And I've been told I have only 5 minutes to do that. We'll try to do that in those minutes.
You can take more.
Okay. So, I think a lot of us don't understand why do people invest in startups. And I think that is one of the fundamental things. People invest in startups as much as they invest in stocks and shares and pre-IPO and listed companies and mutual funds is to make money. Now we have to be attractive.
নমস্কার, আমি পবিশা চট্টোপাধ্যায়। আপনাদের সবাইকে স্বাগত পবিশাস জ্ঞানে। পবিশাস জ্ঞানে আমি বাঙালি ইউথদেরকে এন্টারপ্রেনিয়রশিপ আর বিজনেস রিলেটেড মোটিভেশন দিয়ে থাকি। আজকে আমরা এসে গেছি বীর বেঙ্গল এন্টারপ্রেনিয়র্স ইকোসিস্টেমের ডিসেম্বর মিটে। সেই ডিসেম্বর মিট আজকে কোথায় হচ্ছে? আরওসিতে আপনি মলারা জানেন আমরা প্রত্যেক মাসের বীর ইভেন্ট কভার করে থাকি, তো আমরা ভিতরে যাব। তবে আপনাদেরকে আরেকটু একটা ভালো অ্যানাউন্সমেন্ট করে দিই যে এরপর থেকে আমার ভিডিওজ আপনারা হিন্দি অ্যান্ড ইংলিশেও পেতে পারবেন। তাহলে আমরা একটু ভিতরে যাই এবং ভিতরে গিয়ে দেখি ভিতরে কি কি হচ্ছে।
Years is that startup is the only sector where experience is of no use, right? So all of you who think that experience is very valuable, it is not. Because the world is evolving so fast that even in the last 7 years that we have been running Lead Angels as a fund, so many things have changed. Today I want to focus on just two things. One is about fundraising, because I think many of you want to raise funds, and to tell you what are the sort of, what are VCs looking for, what are the trends. And the second thing which I'm going to talk about is why managing your cap table is important. And I've been told I have only 5 minutes to do that. We'll try to do that in those minutes.
You can take more.
Okay. So, I think a lot of us don't understand why do people invest in startups. And I think that is one of the fundamental things. People invest in startups as much as they invest in stocks and shares and pre-IPO and listed companies and mutual funds is to make money. Now we have to be attractive. They're not your partners. These angels or VCs are not your partners. They're not like your co-founder. They're not somebody who's going to stay with you for life. They want to invest in your company, just like a share. You'll buy Reliance shares or whatever shares, and you'll eventually get out of it. So that is what they're looking at. And what are they looking at? They're looking at very high growth, because what they don't get in the stock markets. In the stock markets, companies are growing. Unilever is growing at 2 or 3% in good years, right? Whereas startups are supposed to be looking at 40-50% growth per month. So that's one. The second usually is they're looking for companies which don't require, they're not capital intensive. That means they're not investing in mines, or they're not investing in large sort of manufacturing thing. They're looking for capital efficient models, right? And finally they have looking at those businesses which somebody else will be willing to buy. You are buying Reliance shares in the stock market because you know that Reliance shares have a good market for people, and that's why somebody else will buy it in due course. That is why you invest. So I invest in a startup with the hope that somebody else will buy my stake so that I will make money out of that whole exercise. A lot of times entrepreneurs, including me, forget that that is the basic reason why people invest in startups. And I don't know if you guys have connected with VCs. They like, a lot of us entrepreneurs have businesses in multiple areas, but they like laser sharp focus. So they want you to focus only on one thing. And One of the things that we look especially is that is the team complementary, and can I have trust with the founder, because not in general and especially in India, trust is very, very important. So happy to answer any questions about angel funding or VC funding. I can take 2 questions and I can move on to the cap table management. Is that fine?
I have a lot of questions. Give me a mic.
Oh God.
I'm looking for seed funding. Can I approach you?
Yeah, so, so you may not, there are different types of investors, and investors also evolve over a period of time. We had invested in a company called Go Desi, I don't know how many of you have heard of it. At that point of time, the revenues were 50,000 rupees per month. I'm sure a lot of you have that sort of revenue. But we could see that company had potential to grow. Today, that company is doing about almost 2 crores a month in the products that they sell, and still growing. And growing at 30-40%, not like Unilever or other FMCG companies which are growing at 4-5%. So growth, potential to grow, and then for a long period of time. That's what we are looking at.
So we have like 80-90 entrepreneurs here, and some aspire to be entrepreneurs too. So if you could name or speak about 3 or 4 or 5 criteria that you seek in a startup.
So of course there is no one thing, and I think each business and each founder is different. So there's not, you can't really, pull it down to 1 or 2 things. But I think one is the passion of the founder, his or her persistence is what we look at. And of course, I told you about the fact that he or she should be able to focus, because a lot of us entrepreneurs end up doing 5-6 things at the same time. It's a common habit, but how will the company focus and reach where it has to do? That's about the founder, and the team should be complementary. And it should not be a one-man or a one-woman show, right? So that a lot of us entrepreneurs are very individualistic, and we don't like to give space to anybody else. So that's also what we look at, because eventually the company is going to grow. You're going to have more people in your team. Right.
I mean, since you talked about experience being irrelevant, if you could speak about some of your core learnings that you gathered over the last 25 years.
Okay. A difficult one, but I think persistence. I've actually written a book about how to fund your startups and other nightmares. It's available on in Penguin. But I think persistence is, I feel, the strongest suit of an entrepreneur, because most people give up. Hardcore founders don't. And we've seen companies pivot and go down to the ground and again raise themselves from there. And I think that is one thing which I have seen. And the book is about the persistent model. So persistence, we feel, is a very, very critical part of a founder's success. Passion, and that is because a lot of our friends are sitting in US and earning in dollars. If you're not passionate enough, then you may want to go there, right, after some time. So it's the passion which keeps the founder going on what he or she is trying to build.
I've got an interesting question, and I keep reading and hearing about guys like Mark Cuban or even Rehan here, Chris Sagan. And one interesting aspect would be, the podcasters, they would often ask these gurus that, some of their investments, which they missed on, but went on to become success stories.
Yeah.
Any such stories?
Of course, we're full of those, yeah.
And the reasons.
So I remember this company called Blue Smart. Blue Smart
The
is
EV
this
ones, right?
the EV taxi company. It's not so long ago. They came to us, and we felt that typically as VCs, we don't invest in companies which have a high capex. As you know, in the case of Blue Smart, they have to buy those cabs, and then they give it out to drivers to drive them. So it was it was actually a no-brainer sort of decision from our perspective, saying, don't invest. Of course, the company has done very well, and had we invested, the valuation would have gone up. But let me also add here that the jury is still out there, because whether it will eventually ever make money, God only knows. But yes, we missed that opportunity. There's another company called, I'm forgetting the name, but actually it was a Bengali founder called Khadim. I forget the name of the company. And his product was about getting data from your web pages and making FAQs and all sorts of things for the e-commerce world. Like they were building blocks for the e-commerce and other, and the person could not, and those of you who were not feeling very, confident about speaking, he was a very, very shy speaker. And unfortunately that we could not, because you want the founder to be persuasive, and if he or she can't speak in front of a team, you'll say no. If he could not convince us, who else? How else will somebody else get convinced? But of course, that company got I think sold for about $200 million. So, if you're an entrepreneur who's feeling shy, don't worry about it. It's not the extroverted, backslapping entrepreneur who succeeds. Yeah? You can be an introvert and be very successful, and there are lots of introverted entrepreneurs who've made it real big.
The last question, এখানে মনে করুন অনেকে আছে যাদের ভালো ব্যবসা আছে যারা আপনাকে অ্যাপ্রোচ করতে চায় ওদের জন্য কি বলবেন মানে কিভাবে আপনাকে অ্যাপ্রোচ করবে
I'll just tell you what we invest in so that you're clearer, because we have also evolved over a period of time. Today we are looking at companies which have revenue, so we are looking at revenue positive companies. There are lots of investors, incubators, accelerators who will look at your company when you don't have revenues. So my suggestion to companies which don't have revenues is, today there are lots of incubators and accelerators, go to them. Once you've achieved revenues for your company, come to our website, fill up the form, and we'll contact you.
And Dada, are you like sector agnostic or everything?
Yeah, we are sector agnostic. So that takes the first part, and the second part I'll just talk about. As you will raise capital, in the initial times, you will raise money from your friends and family and the uncle who's based in the US. Your cap table will keep on growing. And when you reach our stage, or you reach the stage of VCs, we look at your cap table also very, very carefully, saying how many people are there, because in India, ownership is 9/10 of the law. So you're saying, how will you, when I want to acquire your company, I would like to exit all the other shareholders. If there's like a whole bunch of shareholders in your company, you're going to find it tough to do that. So we actually offer this service where we help you to, when you're looking at getting invested about 25-30 lakhs between your friends and family, we will advise you to do that transaction through our platform, so that there's only a single shareholder on your cap table, and they in turn own units of those shares. So your cap table ta khub sundor dekhte lagbe.
Angel list ভালো কাজ করছে
Huh?
মানে angel list নভেল রবি
The same thing. It's the same thing.
AIF.
This is, if I may use the word, fund as a service.
Okay, and what's the instrument?
So supposing you get 5 investors who want to invest in your company, you come along to us, we will take that money from them, put it in one box, and then invest it in your company. So instead of having 5 investors in your company, you'll have a single investor in your company.
But will you be creating a separate company?
Separate, what is called a special purpose vehicle.
SPV, right?
Yeah, SPV.
Right.
Any other questions which you felt shy?
Hi, my name is Pratik. So as you were saying that a company called Blue Smart, right? So you said that companies like Blue Smart were having a good capex. So you step back to that. Why should we invest in that? Like most of the VCs also do the same thing. This is a character what we see in since last few years. But I just want to know that the business which are mainly dependent on capex, which have to be like has to be put in before the business should start. So where should then they reach? If VC is not the part, then where should we go?
Yeah. So Rupas, I want to clarify one part is that when you're in a very new area of business, supposing somebody was setting up the first EV taxi service in India, then sometimes VCs will overlook the fact that it's a high capex thing, or if you're making a semiconductor chip, it's very high capex, but they may overlook that. Some VCs may overlook that because then the infrastructure itself will become a moat for your business, right? So very early stage, very new businesses, people might be willing to put in money. But of course, other ways are, debt. There are, debt agencies, bank loans, the CGT SME scheme, as you might be aware of. So that would be the route, yeah.
যদি আমার ভিডিও ভালো লেগে থাকে, আমার সমস্ত কন্টেন্টগুলো আপনার ভালো লেগে থাকে, এই ভিডিওটা আপনার ভালো লেগে থাকে, তাহলে অবশ্যই সাবস্ক্রাইব করবেন, লাইক করবেন এবং যত সম্ভব আপনার লাইক মাইন্ডেড এন্টারপ্রেনিউরদের এবং উড-বি এন্টারপ্রেনিউরদেরকে সেট করবেন যাতে ওরা মোটিভেশন পায় এবং নতুন ব্যবসা করার জন্য আবার স্টার্ট করে। তাহলে আমরা আজকের মতো আসি, নমস্কার।